is Lisa Barnett from eModeration. And here's Lisa.
Wow, so how do I follow that then? I think Rich has talked about everything, so is Lou. So I guess I'm left here trying to stop you from going to the bath, so I'll try and do my best. So we're here to talk about building branded communities, and just to justify me and why I'm standing up here. I am actually a community manager, but purely by accident. So I was a journalist for about 10 years, and basically suddenly there was this internet thing coming along. And this internet was affecting all these publications because they didn't know what they were doing and they were losing money. So basically I went out for lunch with the managing director and he said, okay, we need to do something with you, we need to do something with the internet. I know, let's make you a community manager. So from there I've worked on publications, doing various sort of communities on B2B, B2C, so I've done e-business and marketing ones. And for my sins, I was at the Institute of Chartered Accountants for the last 2 years, which was interesting, shall we say the least. And then I've just started at eModeration, so I've been there for about the last 9 months. So first of all, some definitions. Let's all agree what is a community. I'm sure some of those up there you'll actually recognise. But a community in essence is a group of like-minded people that come together to talk about common issues, common problems that they've got. So this can be the latest Apple product. It can be about football fans talking about their fans' performance last night. It can be about people asking where is the best restaurant to go to. And these communities are coming up all the time. So yes, I know there is the Facebook ones, there's the Twitter ones, there's the YouTube ones. But there are still those traditional communities out there. So the more forum stuffs, the more sort of customer support ones, the user groups, the members communities. So how do you feel about online communities? I know sort of certainly if I've ever approached any community or any sort of senior executives and said, come on, we need to do a community. The first 2 responses absolutely is what they say every single time. However, I'm a community manager and I know that you can get value out of them. I know you can get that business intelligence from it. So that's why I feel that we do need to have online communities. So why would you have an online community? So at the centre of the community is people talking about your product. They're sharing experiences, both good and bad. We do have to take the rough with the smooth for them. There's all this good data that can be farmed out of it. There's feedback to the respective departments, whether it's marketing, whether it's PR, whether it's product development as well. This helps improve the whole customer experience. So your community acts as a focus group that gives you feedback, gives you market research, and suggests product development. They recommend your product to your friends. And all of this is working alongside a brand. If you had a community, you need proper community management. So in here, community management is about managing and maintaining your community. So there are 3 stages of maturity in a community. So first of all, there's the growing one. So exactly as Rich was talking about, where you do start off very small. So you start off the growing one, you give it the facilitation for actually doing it. Then the second stage is building out that content, building out the engagement through the members. And then finally you move on to the third stage, which is the nurturing, and this is where the community managers play a big role in this. So why would you have community management? Basically, you can't just let these communities run off on their own. If we did, it would absolutely just blow out of control. So community management is meant to be the answer. It's not going to do it all for you, but it is going to give you those tools that's going to allow the easiness and the guide. It's going to guide and steer the community. It's going to create this safe haven, this sort of a conflict-free environment. However, this doesn't always work in practice. And this is where the community manager comes in. So every day the community manager or even the community team is building the conversations, seeing what's going on in the community, asking the community what do they want to talk about. They're guiding them in the right direction. They're sorting out any conflicts between the management and the brand, sorting out conflicts between members. Here, we all know we're all not going to get on in this room together. That's going to happen online as well. So that there's a agreed direction in which this community is going. So what is a community manager doing? So allegedly they are a jack of all trades, but you are expected to know product management. You're expected to know how to use the tool inside and out, so you have to have a technology background. You have to know about customer relationship marketing. You have to know about brand management and marketing. So we need to know, what's the company line? What is it that PR is going to allow me to say? I need to know about content management. I need to put together an editorial schedule. And finally, the last little bit is the community management. So if I'm talking and nurturing to the members, how am I going to get them to do more within my community? So this is, you probably can't see it all the way back there, but this is a sort of a fun, tongue-in-cheek traits as suggested by Get Satisfaction, which is a forum supplier. And this is what they think a community manager does. So they reckon a community manager is a sculptor, a spam warrior, a sponge, a gardener, a cheerleader, and a traffic cop. And then one of my favourites is that they're also a pinata. So after being beaten by sticks, they must still give out sweets to their members. So these are probably some more traditional business-like traits that you'd have in a community manager. They need patience, and rather a lot of it. They need passion, and they do need to be self-motivated. But also you need to have that sort of editorial content experience. And you have to have good communication skills. So a typical community manager diet is made up of editorial, customer services, dealing with sales inquiries, dealing with technical issues, dealing with marketing and PR. So let's go over some community management best practices. So you must know and understand your audience. Building momentum inside your community follows the fundamental principles of marketing and having a basic value proposition. You need to build trust by mixing an icon, so whether that's your brand, with fun and a sense of involvement. So they have to belong at a local level, but linking up to the big global overall message. This helps make people feel part of something, even though there is this big global initiative going on here. You need to make it valuable. You have to demonstrate the value as to why anyone would want to come to your community. Just because people participate in a group but don't necessarily buy your product, it doesn't mean they're not adding value. Communities can create a stickiness, which can often equate to customer retention and can be tracked. So don't discount the total lifetime value of a customer. Communities are about long-term relationship. Let the community do its own advertising and push the word out about your products or your services. So building the right community is typically always said in gardening terms. So the idea is you seed, you tend, and you weed. So you seed the community with content, you tend to your members' needs, and then you weed out any content or any members that shouldn't be there. This has to happen to protect the integrity of your community space. You have a system which promotes positive activity as well as the negative activity. Size doesn't matter. Being big is not the best thing to do, and definitely you don't have to do this overnight. Yeah, remember that men and women, we all know this, do participate, but definitely in a community they do participate differently. Women are more likely to go into your community far more often, but they'll do less, whereas men will come there less frequently, but will be there for hours on end. But be aware that social media and community are different, and people will behave differently on Facebook as they will do in your community. Facebook is a community of sense. However, in a proper traditional community, you do have a better sense of belonging and a sense of being part of something. But do use your social media to actually drive people back to your community. I think you should be realistic. So building a community does take time. You have to understand your context and your audience. Many communities take time to grow large. Don't try to do everything at once. So demonstrate real impact against operating metrics, and then start to energize and mobilize other people to see who the initial team is making a difference. Now, I'm bound to say this because I'm a community manager, but you do need to support your community managers. Your community manager needs authority. They need to have the power to be able to impact things, to be able to take something within the organisation and to push something out. If you look at some of the things that we've already talked about, being able to deal with the product issues that are going on, or being able to have the marketing tools to know what they can and can't say, they need that internal authority to be recognised for what they're doing. And the role of the community manager can also be extremely overwhelming and just feel like you are the only person that actually in the organisation is wanting to get your message out. So setting expectations. It's important that while we as brands have 9 to 5-ish roles, I know we don't all work 9 to 5, however, your community definitely doesn't work 9 to 5. You may all find that your community is most active at the weekends. Well, that's when you're going to need your community management team there the most. That's when you need the content there. That's when you need the moderators there to go in and to see what's actually going on. But also, you need those people that are going to be your brand, that are going to represent your brand, that are going to be going in there. Because we do need to have the brand being represented there. So I thought I'd take you through 10 steps for building a great branded community. So the first one is about setting your objectives. So what is your community trying to achieve? What do you want your members to talk about? That's a LinkedIn group that I've actually joined. It's great. It says exactly what it says on the tin, that there's less fluff and more ROI. However, if that is right, if that's what you're going to set out to do, you need to make sure that your community actually delivers that. So that's where your community team will come in, where your guidelines will come in as well. Because if you've said you're going to do that, you need to make sure it actually happens. However, just because you're a brand and you want to take your community in one direction, it may well be that your members want to take it in a different direction. So even though you've set out those objectives in the beginning, it may well be that you have to tweak those later on. So it is worth just bearing that in mind and being flexible moving forward. Make your tools easy to use. I know that's kind of what Rich was talking about, but up here are 2 registration forms for communities. The one on the left, I probably wouldn't touch with a barge pole, but the one on the right, literally, all you have to do is fill in 2 names, 2 bits in red, and then that's it, you're into it. Okay, as marketeers, that might not sort of appeal to you because you're not getting that data from them, but maybe you do some things to incentivize them to later on fill out their profile more in detail. But if you just wanted to get them into the community, you're far more likely to go to the right one than you are to the one on the left. Personally, I wouldn't try to be absolutely everywhere. The amount of times as a community manager, I've had the CEO come up to me and say, "Oh, I've just read this article and tells me I've got to be on such and such platform." Okay, fine, yes, we've all seen it. I think that, this is about knowing where your audience is. If they're not there, then I wouldn't bother going there. It isn't just a case of, okay, here's another platform, let's just bung all this content up there on this platform. It's not going to work. You need to have the time, you need to have the resources for it, and you need to repurpose your content to make sure it's applicable for whatever platform it's going to go on. Keep it clean and keep it safe. One of my bugbears, if I go on, no matter what community I go on to, whether it is Facebook, whether it is a traditional community, Twitter, I hate seeing spam on there. I hate seeing inappropriate content on there. I just think it's such a bad perception on the brand if you've just left a load of old inappropriate content. We don't have to go into details on it, but it just doesn't look right for you. Now, there are these wonderful things which are terms and conditions, and no, I wouldn't suggest you spend $91,000 on it, but I do think you should have terms and conditions there. Probably nobody will ever read them, but in order to have the behaviour that you want in your community, you need to be able to reference them. So if there is a member of your community that's misbehaving, you tell them, excuse me, we don't like this, and you reference your terms and conditions. Setting expectations. This is about, in this day and age, everybody thinks that we should be on social media 24/7. Definitely as brands, you're probably accused of not being there for people when at midnight they try your product and it doesn't work. I think what Sky is doing is quite nice, because as you can see that in the box there, they're actually saying the time when they are there, when they're available on Facebook, when they're available on Twitter. Okay, that time might not work for everyone, and it probably is more business hours than it should be, but at least you've set the expectations for people. First Direct. Everyone knows and loves First Direct and thinks they're fantastic. But they've actually put out their expectations there of why should you join their community. And then the bottom example there is Lego. Granted, Lego is a child's community, so therefore they have to be more upfront with their expectations, but they've got a real clear cut, just literally those 5 points there of how they expect their members to behave. So having engaging content, it has to be, you have to have the right and relevant content on there. And I know I'm talking to a room full of marketeers, but I just wouldn't use your community for pushing out your marketing messages. It's the first big turn-off that most members are going to find from it. I think it's fine to do some of your marketing messages, but I think there's a balance for it. So, if you're constantly pushing that there are special offers, maybe you do that at special times for it, or special times of the year. And if you are going to do any competitions, just make sure that they're relevant to your audience. So for argument's sake, if you run, if you're going to run a car competition, but that has nothing to do with your product because it's software, well, you're just going to get people that you actually don't even want to belong into your community. They're literally there to take the prize and then they'll go away. And one thing that I think that a lot of communities don't do well enough is just using that poll. It's such a quick and easy thing to do, to set up on communities, to set up on Facebook, just to ask anyone about it. And it gives you that instant snapshot of exactly how your community is feeling today. So this is about being consistent and using an editorial calendar. So for every community that I've ever worked on, we always have an editorial calendar. So we plan what we're going to say. Granted, you can't do that for the topical things that are going to come up, but that's where you can see if something breaks tomorrow, I can have a look in my editorial calendar and go, okay, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to shift around for it? As marketeers, you can use your editorial calendar to have themes that you want to talk about. So this calendar will help you identify, are you saying too much? Are you saying too little? Have you even got gaps in your calendar? One trick that most people use is they are consistent in terms of sending out regular content. So they know that every Friday, 4 o'clock, there may well be that email message. There may well be that member of the week that's going to be the blog post that's going to be up there. We do need to incentivize an audience to come to your community. The community do want to know what's in it for them. So, these are two examples here. So we've got Weight Watchers on the left, which is a fantastic sort of community. They're telling people there that there's more than 3,000 recipes that they can come and have a look at. American Express, I know this is on Facebook, but this is something they're giving to their fans. So they're offering some boxing tickets before they're available everywhere else. So this is for traditional communities. You definitely wouldn't be able to empower your champions in Facebook. But the idea is that you've got that core group of people that will actually go in and help sort of self-moderate your community. That'll tell off the guys that aren't behaving well in there. They'll go in and respond on your behalf. You need to treasure these people. They are the fantastic evangelists for your company. So you can have a whole sort of power users or champs, as some people call them, a whole program about it. So you set out what you want these people to do, you give them freedom, maybe you give them a blog, maybe you allow them to moderate some content that's in there. But they're publicly recognised as your power users. But they can be used as a good source for, to be your eyes and ears when you can't be there. And they're also great to be used as an impartial voice. So, if somebody asks a question on a forum that's actually answered by somebody else, so Joe Schmo, you're far more likely to believe Joe Schmo than you are sort of a brand that comes in. And so finally, my last one is, don't be afraid to ask your community, what do they want? Now this doesn't mean sending out that annual survey or that quarterly survey. Frankly, people haven't got time to fill out these surveys. But why not just put a question in there ever so often? A lot of people do sort of question of the week or something, but it's a really good and quick way of knowing what are you doing for your community and are you still being relevant to them. And so that is that from me. So if you need to ask me questions or you fancy a drink, that's fine.